first method for making an I-cord. You can see that it takes the edges and wraps them around to the back, giving you a nice round edge. On this one of these is a little bit tighter. This is a little bit loose. This is a little bit tighter. But I'll show you this method. It's pretty simple, and I quite like it. I think this is my favorite method. So when you're doing an I-cord, it takes up 3 stitches on either edge, whichever edge you're doing it on, both edges. So this is a 10 stitch sort of swatch, and then I've had to add another 6 stitches. This is actually 16 stitches. So the first stitch on the right side, you're going to knit, you're going to bring the yarn to the front, slip the middle stitch, bring the yarn to the back, and knit again. And then you're going to work your pattern. So this is stockinette, so I'm just going to knit all the way across, but you can work whatever your pattern is, color work, lace work, stripes, whatever, garter. But either way, this I-cord edge will give you a nice like knitted edge. So it can stand out a little bit more in other patterns. Now I'm here at the last 3 stitches, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to knit the first one, bring the yarn to the front, slip the middle one, bring the yarn to the back, and knit the third one. So that's exactly the same thing we did on the first edge. And when we are working the wrong side, we're going to do exactly the inverse. So whatever we had knit, we slip, and whatever we had slipped, we're going to knit. So slip the first one, bring the yarn to the back, and knit the middle one, bring the yarn to the front, and slip the third one. And then I'm just going to purl across and work your row all the way to the last 3 stitches. Okay, so we're at the last 3. So we're going to slip the first one, bring the yarn to the back, knit the middle one, and bring the yarn to the front and slip the third one. Shall we do it again? All right. Knit the first one, bring the yarn to the front, slip the middle one, bring the yarn to the back, and knit the third one. Work your row. All right, last 3 stitches. Knit the first one, bring the yarn to the front, slip the second one, bring the yarn to the back, and knit the third one. And on the wrong side, we slip the first one, bring the yarn to the back, knit the second one, bring the yarn to the front, slip the third one, and work your row. Okay, last 3 stitches. Slip the first one, bring the yarn to the back, knit the middle one, bring the yarn to the front, and slip that last one. Okay, there you have it. That's the first method. Okay, this is the second method of knitting an I-cord. And you can see here I've done this in garter stitch, so you can really see where the I-cord is, where it begins and ends. And this method creates more of a tube, and what you can do with the tube is actually carry yarn up inside. So if you're working with multiple colors, you can hide that yarn and carry it along. So this method, whether you're working the front side or the back side, you're always going to slip the first 3 stitches, and you're going to work the last 3. So I'm going to slip these 3 stitches. Now I want to trap this red yarn behind. So when I grab this blue yarn, I just want to make sure that it's going to trap the red yarn. And I'm just going to work in garter stitch. Now I'm going to do this first knit stitch, and I'm going to give this a tug because the last stitch I worked was this one on the outside. So if I tug this, it's going to pull this stitch around closer to this stitch. And I'm just going to knit this in garter stitch. Until I get to the last 3 stitches. Now this is the last 3 stitches. I'm just going to knit these. I'm on the right side, so I'm going to knit these so that our knit stitches are facing out. And I'm going to flip over. Now I said on this we're going to slip the first 3 stitches of every row, and that's what we're going to do. I'm going to slip 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to bring this yarn, just because I'm going to knit this, because I'm going to do a garter stitch. So I'm going to bring this yarn to the back, and you see how that pulls this first stitch tight, and it pulls it so it ends up in a tube. And I'm going to knit this. If you were purling the row, it would be the same thing. You would purl it, and as you purl that stitch, it would sort of pull that outer stitch towards that 4th stitch essentially and create a tube. Now I'm on the wrong side here, and I want my I-cord edge to be a knit, so I'm actually going to bring this yarn to the front and purl these last 3 stitches. Okay, so that's all there is to it. Every row you slip the first 3, and then at the end of the row, depending on whether you're on the wrong side or the right side, you're either going to knit or purl, so that both of your I-cord edges show up as knit columns. Okay, we can do it again. Let's check this red yarn and make sure that it's, so I want to pull it up, and this yarn is going to go across here into the 4th stitch. So slip these 3 and knit number 4. Till I get to the last 3 stitches. And I'm just going to knit all 3 of these stitches now. Okay, and then on the back side, I simply slip the first 3 as normal, and then I just go straight into my row pattern, whatever that is. Give it a nice tug, make sure that I-cord is nice and tight. And I'm working the wrong side, so the last 3 stitches get purled, so that when we look at the front side, it appears to be knitted. And there you go. That is method 2. This is the 3rd method. I've done this one in moss stitch, and you can still see the pronounced edges. It also still has a tube at the back so that you can carry your yarn up the side inside the tube. Now, the last one, we slipped the first 3 and then knitted or purled the last 3. This one is kind of the opposite. You knit or purl the first 3 and slip the last 3 on every row. So let's begin. So on this one, I'm going to grab my red yarn, and I'm going to knit the first 3. So 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to work my moss stitch. And I'm going to work it all the way until I get to the last 3 stitches. And then all I'm going to do is bring my yarn to the back and slip 3 with the yarn and back. I'm going to flip over the work, flip it this way. And I'm going to work the first 3 stitches, but because we're on the wrong side, I'm going to purl them. So I'm going to purl 1, and I'm going to pull it a bit tight, purl 2, and purl 3. Just like on that last one, you want to pull, like that first stitch that you're working, you want to pull it a bit tight to help close up that sort of tube shape. All right, now we're at the last 3 stitches. I'm going to bring the yarn to the front and slip these last 3 with the yarn in front. And I'm going to cross this over. And as I go to do the next row, I just want to make sure that I'm trapping that blue yarn and carrying it up with me. And we'll do the same again. So I'm going to knit the first 3, work my row, and the moss stitch, in case you're wondering, this is a 2 by 2 moss stitch. So you knit 2 and you purl 2, and then every right side row you alternate and do the opposite. Creates a little grid pattern. Okay, and last 3 stitches, and I'm going to just, my yarn's already behind, so I'm just going to slip these 3 with the yarn behind, flip it over, and we're going to purl the first 3, give that one a bit of a tug, and work my moss stitch. All right, now I'm to the last 3, and I'm just going to slip these with the yarn in front. All right, there we have it. That's the third method. There you go.